McCarrick Report. The long-awaited results of the Vatican's investigation into the former US Cardinal are released. We have analysis and reaction. Road to the White House. New developments in the Trump campaign's allegations of voter fraud as more legal challenges are launched. And Capitol grilling, why the former acting director of the FBI is facing tough questions from lawmakers. On EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. The Vatican has released its long-anticipated report into former U.S. Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. The Vatican Secretary of State says the findings of this 460-plus page report will bring a lot of pain to the faithful.
We publish the report with sorrow for the wounds that the matter has caused to the victims, their families, the Church in the United States, and the Universal Church. The trust of many faithful people in the Church has been damaged.
The 90-year-old was laicized last year following a Holy See investigation that confirmed decades of allegations of sexual abuse against minors and adults. Joining us now with more on this report is EWTN News Rome correspondent Colin Flynn. Colin, good to see you. So how did this report come to be and how much is included in it?
Good evening, Tracy. Well, there is much to unfold, covering a time frame of nearly 90 years. This report was originally commissioned by Pope Francis in 2018 to investigate how the now disgraced former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick rose through the ranks of the hierarchy of the Catholic Church to become one of the most powerful cardinals in America, despite there being a string of sexual abuse and misconduct allegations against him, involving other men, seminarians, and even minors. As McCarrick had such a long career in the Church, this report looks at the time of Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict XVI, and Pope Francis.
Colin, what else does this Vatican report say?
Well, Tracy, the report doesn't point the blame on anyone specifically, but it does lay out a very detailed paper trail of what church leaders knew and when. It does focus on the decision made by Pope John Paul II to elevate McCarrick to the position of Archbishop of Washington. That was a post which would make him one of the most powerful and high-profile figures in the United States. The report says that John Paul II received a letter from late Cardinal John O'Connor. He was then Archbishop of New York. And in that letter, Cardinal O'Connor outlined the rumours and the allegations against McCarrick to the Pope. Now, there was no proof for these allegations, but remember, this was a warning letter coming from the Cardinal Archbishop of New York, who was very renowned and respected. Well, in response, Pope John Paul II commissioned an investigation into this. And the report today claims that the information Pope John Paul II received was misleading and inaccurate. Some bishops said that they had heard stories about the allegations, but didn't believe there was any sexual conduct involved. Well, based on the information at hand, Pope John Paul II decided to pass over McCarrick for the positions of Archbishop of New York, of Chicago, and initially Washington, D.C. However, when McCarrick heard about the letter that Cardinal O'Connor had written, he personally wrote to the Vatican and strongly insisted he was innocent. The report today says that his denial was believable, and so the allegations were all dismissed as rumour. After that, Pope John Paul II named McCarrick as Archbishop of Washington, a position that he held then for 6 years.
Colin, what does the report say about Pope Francis and how much he may have known about McCarrick?
Well, Tracy, according to the report, Pope Francis, who became Pope in 2013, was not given any documentation about the allegations against McCarrick. Now, of course, he knew about the case, but the report states he believed it was thoroughly reviewed and didn't see any need for further action. But in 2018, Pope Francis removed McCarrick from the College of Cardinals, and last year the Holy See defrocked McCarrick after accusations that he had abused a minor were found to be credible by a church investigation.
Okay, thank you so much, Colin. Colin Flynn, EWTN News Rome correspondent. Thanks again, Colin.
Thank you, Tracy.
Edward Pettin, Rome correspondent for EWTN's National Catholic Register, joins us now with more. Thanks so much, Ed, for coming on. Why was this McCarrick report released now?
Well, there's a theory that it was released really because there's a meeting of the US bishops on the 15th, and they wanted to time this to happen before then, and possibly pressured by the bishops to release it now. It's been, as many viewers know, it's been a long time in coming, and people have been wanting this for a long time, and I think they feel that now is the time that it should be released. I think part of the reason for the delay is that the Vatican wanted to get all the witnesses' statements in, and they didn't want to produce anything that was incomplete. At least that's what we've heard from the Vatican. So that's why it's coming now, and I think that's why it's taken a while.
Yeah, I know the report tries to assess the failures in seeing and preventing Theodore McCarrick from rising to power in the church. What were the biggest failures by church leaders?
Well, they seem to have ignored the allegations that were made. They saw them mostly as rumors and unfounded, or at least they didn't have any concrete evidence. So they never really took them seriously until there were these allegations against minors in 2017, and then Pope Francis acted took the action that he took against McCarrick. But I think until then, they didn't really take these allegations seriously, even though there were plenty of people who did come forward and actually notified the Vatican about them. And these were about abuses against seminarians, primarily.
Ed, what does the report say about the actions of the recent popes regarding McCarrick?
Well, Pope Francis tends to get a little bit of a free pass, really, in this document. Instead, it really takes it looks more seriously at the pontificate of John Paul II, under which McCarrick became a bishop and then a cardinal, and also during Benedict XVI. And a lot of the focus seems to be on how McCarrick was allowed to become a bishop, and that was they actually bring out the fact that McCarrick went to John Paul's secretary, Cardinal Stanislav Dziwisz, to try and push his appointment through him, and succeeded. And then everything proceeded from there. So it's very much a focus on those pontificates rather than the current one, and current officials who very much owe their positions today to McCarrick, and they really aren't mentioned much in the document at all.
Ed, let's talk about the lessons from this report. In your view, have we learned from them?
Yes, well, I think the lessons are, well, Cardinal Parolin, for example, who's been very much behind this document, the Vatican's Secretariat of State, he's the Secretary of State, are very much, they actually produced this report. And he says it will have an impact going forward. He said especially on how bishops are selected. Now, if that's true, that will be certainly a step forward, I think, for the church. Certainly, that's what the reforms that have been wanted in the past. So that's the hope. But going forward from this, some say that this isn't enough, really, that it hasn't really tackled the issues that are needed, and that in fact it may serve to shore up, in some ways, McCarrick's reputation. But we'll have to see if that's the case. Certainly, a lot of effort has been made to try to resolve this, to try to get to the bottom of this. But whether it'll be enough, we'll just have to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your analysis, Ed. Edward Penn, Rome correspondent for EWTN's National Catholic Register.
Thank you.
Well, here in the U.S., we are seeing widespread reaction to the release of the McCarrick report. The president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, Archbishop Jose Gomez, says the report underscores the need for us to repent and grow in our commitment to serve the people of God. Correspondent Mark Irons joins us now with more reaction. Mark?
Tracy, Theodore McCarrick had such an influential role in the U.S. Church. Let's start in the Archdiocese of New York, where the first abuse allegation against McCarrick originated. Today, Cardinal Timothy Dolan gave his reaction to this report.
We've been waiting for 25 months.
The Archbishop of New York speaking on the long-awaited release of the McCarrick report.
Even though there's some somber, disappointing, sad, awful material in there, at least there seems to be relief that it's out.
And in the Archdiocese of Washington, Cardinal-designate Archbishop Wilton Gregory says, "My heart hurts for all who will be shocked, saddened, scandalized, and angered by the revelations contained therein." James Grine, a victim of McCarrick's abuse for 2 decades, says he's pleased the report was released. In a statement, Grine says of McCarrick, "He's destroyed me and he's destroyed thousands of other lives. It's time that the Catholic Church comes clean with all of its destruction." At the Catholic University of America, where McCarrick once served as chancellor, the Catholic Project is responding to church abuse, seeking to renew and heal through education and formation. Executive Director Stephen White, in part, described the report.
It's unsatisfying in the sense that there's no clear answer to the one question: who's responsible for all of this, apart from Theodore McCarrick.
Needs to be made on the issue of clergy abuse. Pope Francis does deserve credit, he says, for his leadership over the last couple of years. Tracy.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. Correspondent Mark Irons reporting for us tonight. Also making news tonight, the Vatican's former ambassador to France is on trial for alleged sexual misconduct. Archbishop Luigi Ventura resigned as apostolic nuncio to France when he turned 75 last December, as is customary for bishops. He denies claims of sexual misconduct and has asked for his diplomatic immunity to be lifted so he can explain himself. His trial started today. Today, President Trump tweeted ballot counting abuse. He still says that he will win the 2020 election, although most media outlets have called the race for former Vice President Joe Biden. The Trump administration is also battling to strike down Obamacare while the president-elect seeks to save the Affordable Care Act. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Tracy, good evening to you on what is a very noisy night here at the White House, as workers here have been laying down sod all day long, so I hope you can hear me okay. Let's get right to it. The president now, President Donald Trump, is not alone in his quest to get to the bottom of the 2020 presidential election. They want to see if Joe Biden really won. Now, the president has support in his legal pursuits, but at the same time, the proverbial clock is ticking to Inauguration Day.
1 week after the 2020 presidential election, President Donald Trump is not giving up his fight to win, tweeting this: "Watch for massive ballot counting abuse, and just like the early vaccine, remember, I told you so." But Twitter censored this one, writing in the blue box, "This claim about election fraud is disputed."
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. Right? We're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the State Department will be ready to go no matter which person is inaugurated.
President Trump is well within his legal rights to pursue all these things under these laws now.
Today, the president-elect responded to those claims.
So far, there is no evidence of any of the assertions made by the president or Secretary of State Pompeo.
The Trump campaign is pushing the Georgia Secretary of State to check for felons and other ineligible persons who may have cast a ballot. And Attorney General William Barr has authorized federal prosecutors to pursue substantial allegations of voting irregularities.
Health is a right, not a privilege. Yes, yes? Yes, yes.
Meanwhile, protesters at the Supreme Court.
I don't talk about it, be about it.
President Donald Trump and Republicans arguing to have Obamacare overturned. President-elect Joe Biden wants to save it, arguing that the health care law is especially important in the midst of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic.
This doesn't need to be a partisan issue. It's a human issue.
At this point, it does not appear the High Court will strike down the entire ACA. We'll know for certain this spring. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's transition team threatened legal action to get the presidential transition process moving, but today the president-elect said he does not think that's necessary. Tracy?
Okay, White House correspondent Owen Jensen reporting for us tonight. Thank you so much, Owen. Well, in North Carolina, Democratic candidate Cal Cunningham concedes to incumbent Tom Tillis, giving Republicans the Senate seat, while on Capitol Hill, the majority of GOP senators have yet to publicly congratulate President-elect Joe Biden. This as lawsuits are pursued, and the president has not yet conceded. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales reports. Eric?
Well, Tracy, Senator Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, and even Ben Sasse have all issued congratulatory statements to Joe Biden for his win. This after the Associated Press and other media outlets have called the race for him. But Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer goes one step further. He's now calling on President Trump to step aside quickly.
He is declaring himself to be the winner of an election that he lost. He is claiming to win states that he lost. His legal team is filing scores of frivolous, unsubstantiated lawsuits.
Despite the Democratic leader's criticism, Senate Republicans back up President Trump's right to take his time before making any concession to Joe Biden.
At some point here, we'll find out, finally, who was certified in each of these states, and the Electoral College will determine the winner, and that person will be sworn in on January 20th.
Also in the Senate today, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe was called to account for the Bureau's probe into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election.
The reasons that I agreed with and approved opening the case, and that was because we thought that General Flynn might be having inappropriate contacts with Russia. That's why we opened the case.
The only basis that was put forward for what I think was a bogus political persecution and prosecution was an alleged violation of the Logan Act.
Enacted in 1799, the Logan Act prohibits unauthorized American citizens from negotiating with foreign countries. President Trump's first national security advisor, General Michael Flynn, came under investigation for allegedly violating the Logan Act in a phone call with a Russian official when the Obama administration was still in office. Just yesterday, Joe Biden's team said that they're already having phone calls with foreign leaders, prompting GOP Senator Tom Cotton to tweet, quote, "When incoming Trump administration officials did exactly this, liberals demanded criminal charges." And both parties in the Senate elected their leadership teams today. Now, progressive Senator Bernie Sanders says that Democrats will act swiftly, immediately on new bold legislation in the Senate. The GOP senators, I'm sure, will fight that. Tracy?
Well, Eric, Republicans have the Senate majority right now, but that isn't something that's guaranteed going forward, is it?
No, it's definitely not guaranteed. Even Majority Leader Mitch McConnell talked about that today, and he says that the eyes of the nation are going to be on the state of Georgia. That's where 2 Senate seats will be decided. Now, if Republicans win both of those seats, they will have the majority in the Senate. Tracy?
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. Correspondent Eric Rosales reporting from Capitol Hill tonight. Coming up, analysis of where things stand in the 2020 presidential election. President-elect Joe Biden says he is moving forward with his transition plans despite President Donald Trump not conceding the race. His remarks come as the official transition process between the White House and the Biden campaign remains in limbo. Emily Murphy, the head of the General Services Administration, is the person responsible for signing the paperwork necessary for the Biden campaign to receive money for transition funding and access to classified government information, but she has yet to do so. Joining me now on Skype is Dr. Paul Kengor, author and professor of political science at Grove City College in Grove City, Pennsylvania. Dr. Kengor, welcome back. Always great to see you.
Thank you, Tracy. Good to be back.
So the official term for what the General Services Administration does after an election is called ascertainment. Exactly what does that entail, and can you talk about how significant this delay is?
Yeah, it's a fancy term. It rhymes with entertainment, and that's kind of what this is becoming. But it's the job to ascertain who won the election, essentially, and really not to make the determination of that, but to proceed forward with the transition. So this is based on something called the Presidential Transition Act, which goes back to 1963, the year that John F. Kennedy was assassinated. It was updated in the year 2000 and 2019. And the General Services Administrator for the General Services Administration. So the GSA is an independent agency, and the person who runs it, her name is Emily Murphy. So she was appointed by Donald Trump. They're always appointed by the president. And it's her job to ascertain this going forward. And it's fascinating to watch the politics of this. I heard the clip from Chuck Schumer, Senator Schumer, in the previous segment, talking about not politicizing this. Well, he's politicizing it. Look, the president and the head of the GSA cannot make this determination simply because CNN and Fox and the AP have declared a winner. I mean, the media doesn't declare who wins an election. In fact, Real Clear Politics, which has been the go-to source for so many people for polling, they still have Pennsylvania too close to call. They have Arizona, which they haven't called yet. And as we speak, the difference in Arizona, I think, is about 15,000 votes. Wisconsin, now I believe, Tracy, is less than 20,000. They're both closer than Pennsylvania. So some of these states, Georgia, I think, is about 12,000. So these states are still close to call. And they're going to be called by various secretaries of state in the different states, various boards of election. It's not determined by Fox and the AP and CNN, and the Trump administration realizes that. So as much as the Biden team, I won't call it the Biden transition team, as much as the Biden campaign team wants to pressure the GSA into ascertaining this, the GSA really can't yet. It's too premature.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, I was just going to say that as several media outlets did declare Joe Biden the president-elect, his team is moving forward, and President Trump, as you know, has not conceded. That being said, can you talk a little bit more about where things stand right now, and what, if anything, will alter a Biden lead at this point?
Yeah, and look, it's right of the Biden team to make plans, to plan to move forward, and indeed, planning out a transition. Because, I mean, if you had betting odds at this point, it's probably 80 to 90% that Biden has it, but it's really not over. And so, I mean, Pennsylvania, the difference right now is 40-some thousand votes. It might be close to 48. And right now, Tracy, as we talked about on the show, I think it was on Friday, there are over 100,000 provisional ballots in the state of Pennsylvania. And I checked again before I came on. Donald Trump is winning those about 60-40. Maybe even as high as 65-35. So if he ends up winning those provisional ballots by 20, 30,000 votes, that lead that Biden has in Pennsylvania is suddenly going to be within the 0.5% margin that, get this, automatically triggers a recount in the state of Pennsylvania. And the Trump administration doesn't need to take that to court. If it's within 0.5%, it's an automatic recount. So the ballots haven't even been stopped counting yet in Pennsylvania, even before the Trump administration continues with the legal challenge, which it has a right to do and really should do. So, sorry to the Biden team, but this is going to take a little while. And look, 2000, Florida, Bush, Gore, it went into December. And this very well could go into December, too. In fact, I think it probably will.
Yeah, it does seem like we're in for a long haul, Paul.
It does. Sure does.
Well, thanks so much for your analysis. We really appreciate it. Dr. Paul Kengor, author and professor of political science at Grove City College in Grove City, Pennsylvania. Thanks again, Paul.
Thanks, Tracy.
Up next, an update on the protest in Poland against the country's new pro-life law. Peru is tumbling into political turmoil as anger mounts over a vote by Congress to remove the country's popular president. Thousands protested in Peru's capital last night. They are demanding the resignations of lawmakers who voted to oust President Martin Vizcarra. Congress voted to remove the president for his handling of the coronavirus pandemic and unproven corruption claims. The president is not challenging the vote and says that he is leaving the presidential palace. Protesters in Armenia ransacked government buildings in the capital and took over parliament last night. They are angry that a peace deal with Azerbaijan to end the recent fighting over a disputed enclave gives Azerbaijan control of parts of Nagorno-Karabakh. In Azerbaijan, they are celebrating the peace agreement. Police in Poland carry off women protesting for abortion. Several hundred marched in downtown Warsaw and blocked streets on Sunday. The pro-abortion demonstrators have been protesting for almost 3 weeks now. Poland's abortion law was declared unconstitutional last month. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that he makes no distinction between Democrats and Republicans in the U.S.
לידידנו הגדול, לידידי דונלד טראמפ.
Prime Minister Netanyahu also says that he intends to stand up for Israel's interests in the face of a new American administration. Speaking to Parliament today, the Prime Minister noted some of the major policy changes brought by the Trump administration. And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.